This is Bolivia by Manin Chopra, Matthew Wen, Katie Roche, and Jeffrey Tian. First, we'll start off with Bolivian history. Bolivia originated from the ancient city of Tiwanaku, now one of Bolivia's most popular tourist attractions. It's a landlocked country and was formerly known as Upper Peru during most of Spanish colonial rule. It's endured regular periods of political and economic instability due to shifts of power. Its early inhabitants originated from the ancient city of Tiwanaku, and the city began taking more land around 400 AD. It sustained itself through agricultural surplus until a large drought led to the fall of the city. The area eventually was conquered by the warrior Aymaras and the advanced Incas. The Incas created systems of roads, aqueducts, and bridges that still exist today. Spanish colonization of the Inca Empire began in 1524. Area of modern Bolivia was called Charcas under the control of the Spanish. The natives of the region were enslaved and forced to mine valuable silver for the Spanish. However, as the Napoleonic Wars weakened Spanish authority, sentiment against oppression grew. Simón Bolívar, known as El Libertador from Caracas, Venezuela, served as a soldier in South America. He was fed up with Spanish oppression in the New World, and so Bolivar led the revolution against the Spanish Empire. Under Bolivar, many Latin American countries gained their independence, and Upper Peru became named Bolivia after Bolivar. Resentment towards the Spanish grew in the Chuquisaca Revolution, which was followed closely by the Las Paz Revolution in 1809. Las Paz Revolution marked a complete split from Spanish rule. Even though both revolts ultimately failed, it began the Spanish-American Wars of Independence, in which it took 16 years for Bolivia to gain independence in 1825. Simón Bolívar played a crucial role in Bolivian independence and is the namesake of the country. In contemporary Bolivia, the president is Evo Morales, who was voted into office with a majority of 53% of the votes. His first priority was to draft a new constitution in 2006 in order to give more rights to the indigenous people. He was re-elected in 2009 with the Movement for Socialism political party. Bolivia is now recognized as a representative presidential democratic republic.
Now we'll talk about Bolivia's political structure. Bolivia's government consists of a president, who is the head of the state and government, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch independent from the executive and legislative branches. The current president of Bolivia is Evo Morales, and currently 53.1% of the seats of the national parliament are held by women. The Bolivian constitution guarantees many rights, although they often fail to be respected. Guarantee of freedom of speech and press, even though the relationship between government and press is hostile. Bolivians have the right to vote and assemble in protests, even though many protests are violent. Some other rights include access to internet, academic freedom, freedom of assembly, and religion. There have been many flaws in Bolivian government, however. There have been accusations of the government encouraging censorship of independent media. Insulting public officials is punishable with jail time. There is a lack of identity documents, which makes it difficult for Bolivians to travel. Corruption occurs routinely in the government. There is no public access to government information, and military force and brutality is often used to restore order and repress protests.
Next, we will discuss the culture and traditions of the Bolivian people. Bolivia is still home to many different groups of indigenous people and those of indigenous descent. The two largest groups of indigenous people in Bolivia are the Quechua and Aymara. In 1991, the Bolivian government signed the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention, which protected the indigenous people's rights. The indigenous people now own 20% of Bolivia's land as collective property, about 20 million hectares of land. The people of Bolivia are a very family-oriented people, and Bolivian traditions place a great amount of importance on these ideals. Marriage is one of the most important rites of passage for Bolivians, as it symbolizes the unification of communities and family, as well as youth. Many Bolivian celebrations, such as All Souls' Day and Day of the Dead, involve the offering of large amounts of food. Modern day Bolivians still celebrate by acknowledging their indigenous roots by wearing indigenous celebratory clothes and performing indigenous dances and rituals.
Food and meal structure. Bolivian cuisine stems from the combination of Spanish cuisine and other later influences from Germans and Italians. The traditional staples of Bolivian cuisine are corn, potatoes, quinoa, and beans. These ingredients have been combined with other foods brought by the Spanish, including rice, wheat, and meat. Lunch is the most important and longest meal of the Bolivian day. Businesses usually close between 12 and 3 p.m. so that workers have enough time to go home and eat. This is followed by an afternoon tea break around 4 and 5 p.m. in tea rooms. Dinner is usually much lighter and a more informal meal, which usually takes place around 8 p.m. or later. Sports. The most popular sport played in Bolivia is football de salón, which is a type of soccer normally played in basketball courts fitted with small goals. The ball is usually smaller than a regular soccer ball, and teams have 5 or 6 players. Another popular sport is paleta, a racket sport played in a large outdoor court surrounded by three walls. Years ago, paleta was played with wooden paddles. Nowadays, wooden paddles have been replaced with racquetball rackets.
Talk about Bolivia's religion. So, Bolivia is predominantly Roman Catholic, and approximately 76% of Bolivians are Catholic, and Roman Catholicism is recognized as the official religion of Bolivia. However, around 17% of the population is Protestant, and Protestantism has gained strength in Bolivia during the past few years. Many ethnic groups are animist, where they worship animals or birds instead of a deity. Many holidays and celebrations are religious, usually Catholic in nature. Jesuits brought over Renaissance musical instruments and Baroque music, which heavily influenced traditional music in Bolivia. Indigenous people burn offerings, dance in rituals, dress in ancestral costumes, and hold prayer ceremonies during festivals. And many beliefs and legends are passed down through oral histories during festivals.
Next, we will speak about the many languages that are spoken in Bolivia. Bolivia, like many other South American countries, is home to a vast number of languages, with the official count being at 26 currently. However, there are most likely hundreds of different dialects spoken. Spanish is spoken by about 75% of the Bolivian people, with Quechua behind it, spoken by 25%. However, many also speak traditional indigenous languages such as Tacano and Leco. However, they may go extinct as English and Spanish begin to take over. Quechua was the language of the Incas, which is currently spoken by about 25% of people. It is beginning to fade away, however, as Spanish becomes more dominant. Some common phrases in Quechua include Raima Kaleki, meaning hello, Huk Retukama, meaning see you later, Ayin Punche Kachun, meaning have a nice day, and Sol Paiki, meaning thank you.
Now we'll move on to some major sites in Bolivia. Bolivia as a country has great potential for tourism because it has a very diverse culture and geography. Although tourism hasn't been a major economic factor for Bolivia, it's on the rise. For example, in 2014, 871,000 tourists visited the country. Most are from other South American countries, plus the United States and Spain. Now we'll go over some major tourist destinations. The Andes mountain range runs through the entire country and has many scenic lakes and other destinations. The Madidi National Park is considered one of the most biodiverse national parks in the world. La Casa de la Libertad is the building that houses the original Bolivian constitution. La Recoleta is the first Franciscan monastery to be built in Bolivia. Lake Titicaca is the world's highest navigable lake, and is the largest lake in South America. Cal Orco is a paleontology site home to more than 294 different species of dinosaurs.
Now we'll talk about our ratings for Bolivia. So overall, for a safety rating, we gave Bolivia a 3 out of 5, since it ranked 46th in annual murder rate based on 2014 data, even though that number is thought to have decreased since. and so far in 2017, it has ranked 26th in the world in other crimes. For a visit rating, we gave Bolivia a 4 out of 5. It has many beautiful national parks and has a very diverse geography and culture.